If you haven't been following, we have been covering protests that have been going on here in the Roanoke area for over a month. A mother and a daughter were protesting at the top of trees on their own property because Mountain Valley Pipeline is basically going through their land that's been in their family since the 16th century. This land was given to this family, the Terrys, by a land grant from the Queen of England. And like so many other pipelines, they are using eminent domain to seize people's property around the United States of America. So the mother, Red Terry, and her daughter, Minor Terry, basically got the courage to climb up trees on their property, basically to stop the pipeline from going through their property, because if they were able to stop the trees from getting cut down, the pipeline wouldn't have gone through their property. The pipeline company needed to cut down the trees to put the pipeline through their property. I interviewed the mother and the daughter yesterday. Again, Red Terry and her daughter is Minor Terry. They gave us over an hour, which I really, really appreciate. We're going to try and catch up with them tomorrow if we can, because listen to the strength and just persistence and tenacity of the mother and the daughter. After being up in a tree for over 30 days, let me tell you something. I couldn't last in a tree for 6 hours. I would be stiff as hell. They lasted for over 30 days up in their tree. They came down, and now they're on a statewide tour where they are going to challenge the big oil company, Dominion Energy. They're going to challenge their shareholders at a meeting tomorrow. They're going to meet with lawmakers. They're doing a whole lot of other things. They're having a rally. So we're going to try to catch up with them tomorrow. Tonight, we're taking a little detour. If you don't know, because apparently CNN, it's so interesting. CNN's reporting on the West Virginia primary, which is tonight, but they are not reporting on the fact that Senator Joe Manchin, one of the most corrupt, greedy, fake progressives in our country, has a primary challenger named Paula Jean Swearengin. I think I mispronounced her last name. Paula Jean Swearengin. She is primarying Senator Joe Manchin, but CNN reported it this morning as if, oh yeah, tonight we'll decide which Republican is going to face Joe Manchin in the general election in November. Didn't even mention that he has a primary challenge by Paula Jean Swearengin. So we are going to cover that tonight in West Virginia at Paula Jean Swearengin's primary watch party or whatever, and hopefully we'll be able to interview her, win or lose. Paula Jean is one of the Justice Democrat candidates who have been basically, getting out there and challenging establishment corporate Democrats. Joe Manchin is one of these Democrats who takes endless amounts of money from fossil fuel companies, Wall Street, votes with the Republicans 9 out of 10 times. Might as well be a Republican because that's how he votes. So Paula Jean has really put herself out there. She has an amazing story. She has fought coal contamination in West Virginia and other stories. So we're going to be out there tonight. We will be live on this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. Before I play you an interview I did this morning, if you can, definitely contribute so we could continue on reporting in the field. It's patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. Or if you want to just do a one-time contribution, it's paypal.me/Jordan Sheridan. Paypal.me/Jordan Sheridan. Your contributions to my Patreon, to my PayPal, are helping us, put gas in our car on these road trips, get a hotel room on these road trips, get food on these road trips. So we're doing this from the grassroots media revolution. So I want to play for you. Like I said, you could go check out the interviews I did with Red and her daughter, Minor Terry. The full interview is up on this YouTube channel, and we are releasing shorter clips throughout the day. But I interviewed Delegate Sam Rasoul. This morning. He is a local delegate here. His office is in Roanoke, Virginia, and he has been fighting the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a, quote, natural. They say, I put natural in air quotes, which my favorite troll, Jerry Ross, who's on now, doesn't like, but it's not natural. It's not, natural from Earth. There's a mix of very unnatural very unnatural products in there that are very dangerous to the planet and these people's property. Interviewed Delegate Rasoul this morning. He is traveling with the Terry family on their trip. I wish I could have interviewed him in person, but we spoke over the phone. He has been one of the leading local politicians here against this pipeline. And he informed me of some real sketchy, questionable things that were done in the prior administration. So right now, the governor of Virginia is Ralph Northam. He's a Democrat. The DNC backed his campaign. They told us we need Ralph Northam in the governor's house. Ralph Northam was lieutenant governor to Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe, major friend of the Clintons, has been a major fundraiser for the Democratic Party over the last 20, 30 years. Terry McAuliffe was governor of Virginia, and essentially, I didn't know this, while he was governor, made a deal with the oil companies that if the oil companies paid the Virginia State Treasury millions of dollars, then they would be exempt if there were leaks, explosions, or any problem with the Mountain Valley or Atlantic Coast pipelines during construction. So here is my interview with Delegate Rasoul.
Wanted to start out by asking, have you lived in the Roanoke area majority of your life? What's your background?
Yeah, since I was 3. I'm born in Ohio and then came to Roanoke when I was 3 years old.
And, you've been very active against this pipeline. I just read a piece you wrote, about the dangers here. And you're now traveling with the Terry family on their tour. Can you kind of talk about, it seems like this pipeline has essentially just been rubber stamped and really fast-tracked in a really abnormally quick timeline. Can you kind of talk about that?
Well, it's very clear. Anybody that looks at the FERC process knows that is broken, and that's just a rubber stamp for the oil and natural gas industry. But what's more disturbing is what's happening here at the Virginia level. I mean, we have the authority to be able to protect our own water, and wanting Virginia to follow in the footsteps of New York, for example, who just stopped, at least for now, their pipeline. So, Virginia can do more, and to me, it's really clear that, we haven't put up a lot of resistance, and it's been a tough process to watch.
And you had mentioned in some of the piece that I'm reading about, this is really steep terrain, landslide prone, and in the middle of an earthquake zone. So mixing all of that and pipelines, they say natural gas pipelines, but the bottom line is they leak, there's been explosions. What is the worst case scenario here if there is an explosion in the Bent Mountain area or, in other parts going through the Appalachian Trail?
The worst case scenario is, of course, you got a blast radius, which is a couple miles. But what's clear is bringing the largest pipeline in Virginia history over the mountains. Even an executive for EQT said it would be an engineering marvel to do this. The largest earthquake in Virginia history, as I've been told, is in that region. And for them to try to bring this on through, crossing over the Roanoke River and its tributaries over 100 times, that is the source of water for hundreds of thousands of Virginians just for that project, including myself. And so, we all should be very worried, and it's clear what's happening in other states like in Pennsylvania. These pipeline companies just come through, and it's just one disaster after another.
Right. And, one thing that is really concerning to me is it seems like the oil company doesn't even fully know where all the streams are, how many waterways there are. It's kind of, I was taking a tour of the destruction on the Terry's property yesterday, and they put down like stream signs in certain places, but they don't even know the full map of the Appalachian Trail or where waterways are. So isn't that problematic in terms of you're building this pipeline, but you don't even know the geography?
It is just a product of this corrosive, destructive environment that we have, which is particularly bad in Virginia with the influence of big money in politics. And when you have such large donations, big powerful interests, in this case like Dominion and EQT, who are just lining the pockets of all of us politicians, then you don't have as many people standing up and saying, hey, what is right for Virginia? What do we need to be doing here for our future? So it's really sad to watch, especially with EQT. Their initial FEIS, the environmental impact statement, was just a joke, and they really could care less of what's going to happen. It's a $3.5 billion project that is meant to just line the pockets of a few folks in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and honestly, reading up more and more I read, it doesn't even seem like there's a desperate need for more natural gas in Virginia, because it seems like the existing pipelines are only at about a little over half capacity. Can you kind of talk about what is the need for these pipelines as far as natural gas?
These pipelines are about rich people wanting to line their pockets by exporting this gas, and they're going to bowl right over anyone that's in their way. It is clear that we don't need this, and it's sad to watch Virginia getting railed this way.
And you tried to put forward a bill in the House of Delegates. Can you kind of talk about it was twofold. It had to do with the bonds as well as waterways. Can you kind of talk about what you tried to put forward that was denied?
So the first bill that we put forward was requiring a certain level of due diligence be done to protect all of our streams and the impacts to the uplands. So the erosion and sedimentation that's going to happen because of the steep topography, plus the between both of the pipelines, the 1,000+ waterway crossings, and what are those impacts, and requiring those impacts to be part of any analysis. Unfortunately, that was tabled and met with a lot of resistance and without a lot of conversation, because it's just a byproduct of large donations, really, to the General Assembly. The second bill was with regards to bonding requirements, and making sure that, once things go wrong, because they will, what are these companies liable for? And then at the last minute, what had happened is we found out about these MOAs. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the memorandums of agreement, where the previous gubernatorial administration essentially signed away some of our liability for a payoff. Are you familiar with that by chance?
I know that was Terry McAuliffe, but no, I'm not familiar with the particulars.
So there's what they call memorandums of agreement. There were two different ones, one with Dominion, one with EQT, saying that we'll pay you combined about $80 million to the Commonwealth of Virginia. So the two companies paying 50 something and 57 and 27, I think, approximately $1 million. And in exchange for this exempts us from liability during the construction process.
So they were paying the Commonwealth to the Treasury, I assume?
Yeah. So they signed these agreements in secret in a couple days after Christmas. We find out about it during the General Assembly session, and it essentially says that if something really bad goes wrong during the construction, then we've already paid what we need to pay. So they bought this insurance policy of sorts. And so the second bill that I had, it was originally just around bonding requirements. I, at the last minute, introduced a substitute to it, which would have nullified those agreements, saying that any contract signed of the sorts is no longer valid, and then put a new bonding requirement for a third the cost of the project, which in this case for MVP would be like $1 billion.
Right.
So we'd make them put up $1 billion bond to offer that protection.
So that's kind of unbelievable. Essentially, how it sounds is the former Democratic governor, Terry McAuliffe, obviously Ralph Northam was his lieutenant governor, who is now governor, essentially just, I mean, I don't know what you would call that. I'd call that almost like a bribe. You're taking money preemptively from the oil company to then exempt them from any culpability during construction. And do you think that's part of what is the reason the current governor, Ralph Northam, is looking the other way on this?
I think that that's just one part of the story. For the record, I wouldn't use the word bribe, but you know the reality is that the agreements, and just so we're clear, the agreements were signed during the McAuliffe administration, but it's just a byproduct of Dominion's stranglehold here in the Commonwealth of all of our politics. If people feel like they can't get anything done, period, even outside of energy, many times without Dominion giving the thumbs up. So it's sad to watch for sure.
Yeah. And last question, your piece talked about.
Let me just mention to you, I'm sorry, to be objective about it, there's a guy named John Sokolow who has done some research work on how bad those MOAs have been. And then there is a rebuttal by the Secretary of Natural Resources, Matt Strickler, in the Roanoke Times like 2 weeks ago. So if you wanted to see how the formal response from Virginia looks about defending those agreements, you can look that up in the Roanoke Times.
Okay. And last question, just, it seems to me, I mean, you're a delegate. Obviously, you believe in public, the public self-government. But just what does it say that Americans now have to kind of climb up trees on their own property that's being seized by the government to stop a pipeline from potentially killing them? I mean, the pipeline's blast radius is 2.5 miles up to Terry's property. What does that say, that this is what it's come to, that people are now having to basically protest on their own property?
As a Democrat, I can tell you that it's clear to me that a lot of the traditional party lines are being washed away. People are realizing that there is a class warfare where there are a few very powerful special interests who want to impose their will on the rest of us. And you can find people across the political spectrum that are conservative, libertarian. I mean, I even have talks with my friends from Americans for Prosperity who hate this cronyism themselves. And this is at the higher level here in Virginia. I mean, people across the political spectrum are tired of not being represented. And that was very, very clear in the 2016 election. There were 4 parties running: the Bernie Party, the Trump Party, the Republicans, and Democrats. And President Trump and Bernie Sanders really hit on a common economic populist thread where people are tired of not being represented by these two institutions. And, I'm pleading with my party to wake up before it's too late. And we cannot continue to toe the line, this neoliberal line that is destroying what our values should be.
Right. Thank you so much for taking the time, Delegate.
You're welcome. Sorry again we couldn't meet in person.
Okay. No problem. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Bye-bye.